Good morning, it's 7:45 a.m. We had a frost, hard freeze really last night. I checked at 2 a.m. and it was down to 29.1, so I came out and I started the frost machines. We're now up to 34.5 degrees, so I'm turning them off now. It's been a long night. So I've been checking a few blossoms here. The way you check a blossom is you pinch it off of the tree and then you pinch it through where the seeds would be located, which is right here. And what I see in there is it's still green. If the frost had killed that, it would be black in here. So this one looks live, which is good. We went live. And even the petals look fairly good. The whole sheen, that one looks fairly alive as far as I can tell. It looks alive. The whole notion of this machine is that if air is moving, frost can't form as readily on the flowers and kill them. So they look healthy. We got down to a low of 26.1 last night, was the lowest that I recorded around 4 a.m. So under normal circumstances, these would be pretty toasted and brown. But so far they look pretty good. This is, of course, very close to the machine. The machine draws the cold air into it and shoots it out the top of that big fan. The idea being not to let the cold air to pool in the low parts of the orchard, and that also by drawing the air into this big fan, it sort of runs like a jet engine, you know, it's just blowing huge volume of air. It keeps air moving, draws air moving in from all around the orchard. This is supposed to protect about 8 acres of fruit trees. So the big question will be, the farther we move away from this fan itself, to see if the blossoms are live, you know, a half an acre away, so maybe 500 feet, 600 feet away. If they're still live, then we may have helped a little bit. You're only trying to gain a couple degrees temperature benefit by moving that air past those leaves and blossoms throughout the night. So I'm going to walk and check a few more and see how we did. So far we're looking pretty good. Okay, so here we're about 1,000, the machines are about 1,000 feet apart and we're about 500 feet from that one. Here I can see some damage on this blossom. You see how it's brownish? So that means that the frost settled somewhat on that bloom and did some damage. So now that doesn't mean it's necessarily dead. So let's cut him open. He still looks live on the inside. I'm trying to get it out of the shade here. There. This one's questionable. The pistils are a little bit brown, so they probably are dead. But this one right next to it, or nearby, looks much better. I see a little bit of discoloration in the petals. And this one is dead. You can see how it's kind of brown right here where the seed pocket would be. So that one's dead. We got some that aren't opened. We can check one of those. That one's nice and green and healthy. So this one wasn't quite open yet. Usually they're slightly less vulnerable when they're not open. I mean, very slightly, like maybe half a degree. Same thing here. You can see some of these are a bit fried looking. And here they're curling up. Some of these are possibly still alive, but I mean, overall this tree, most of the blossoms still look pretty good. So there's some damage on this tree, but there's so many blossoms on this tree that even if 5% of them live, we would have a full crop. So I'm encouraged by this, even though I am seeing damage. This tells me that we probably did some real good by having our frost machines running last night, because if you let that air just completely stop in your orchard, then the frost can do the most harm possible. So keeping it moving prevents it from doing all the harm possible. So here we're getting closer to the second machine that's still running. I see a little discoloration in these blossoms here and there, but then on some of these they look much better. So it's like hit and miss. Like this group looks really healthy, this group doesn't look quite as healthy. But if even one of these survives out of these 5, I'll have a full crop on this tree. So again, we were definitely right on the edge last night. So that's the scenario where the frost machines do the most good, is you're just trying to prevent as much damage as a frost could possibly cause, and thereby saving enough of the crop so that you can possibly have a full crop. So I'm encouraged by what I'm seeing so far. So I'm picking up my little probe thermometer here that really didn't do me as much good as our weather station did. Our weather station transmits weather data, and so I was able to look on my phone and read that stuff. But here's the lower part of the orchard. This waterway is toward what I'd call the bottom of the orchard. The other one was in a waterway, but at slightly higher elevation. So you would expect more damage in this part of the orchard, and actually this tree is looking pretty good. Those flowers have good color. Yeah, I mean, for being as low in the orchard, there was, before we had these frost machines, there was one year where we had a night just like last night where we got to 25, 26 in the orchard as a low. And what we found here is where this cold air can pool in this low spot. Later in the season, what you found was kind of a line on all the trees. Below the line there was no fruit, and above the line there was fruit, and you could tell exactly where that kill line happened, where the cold air had pooled. And as you walked through the orchard to higher and higher ground, that line got lower and lower. But then when you went downhill, the line got higher and higher, to where some of the trees down this way, where it gets lower, had only a little bit of fruit in the very top, and farther where you got higher, eventually you had a full crop. So that's the whole point that these fans are for, is to stir that air so that that line, that kill line, doesn't develop. You keep everything stirring and moving, and it has to suck the air down the slopes. So the air is naturally slightly warmer higher up, not much, maybe a degree or two, but as you pull that air down the slopes and then shoot it out the top of that fan, you keep a more consistent temperature in your orchard. And even though you might have some freezing temps, you're trying to prevent it from pooling and really killing the crop. So at the moment, from this point forward, the forecast looks more favorable. We got a little bit of cool weather, but not supposed to get into the 20s anymore. We'll find out in time if that's true. The forecast can change daily, even hourly. And we're looking pretty good so far, but we'll know a lot more in a few days. I'll continue to check those blossoms, because sometimes it takes a little bit of time for that kill to show up, but usually it's pretty quick after you've had a frost event. So thanks for watching.